Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to this new episode of Sudan in Focus weekly news magazine, which focuses on Sudan news and events, aims to give the Sudan TV audience a broad and first-hand information about what is going on in Sudan. So let's go.
President of the Sovereignty Council and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces SAF, Lieutenant Gen. Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, said that they will soon celebrate the victory and all the Sudanese people will celebrate the victory over the Al-Daglo militia that rebels against the state. Al-Burhan saluted the officers, non-commissioned officers and artillery soldiers in Atbara, stressing that the armed forces are capable of deterring anyone who dares to tamper with the capabilities of the Sudanese people and undermine their dignity and sovereignty. He appreciated the efforts of all regular forces, with their various formations and units, in confronting the aggression of the rebel militia. Al-Burhan renewed his assurances that the armed forces SAF will proceed to end this war soon. National Committee for War Crimes and Violations of the Rebel Rapid Support RSF militia filed on Tuesday and Wednesday criminal cases number 1613/2024 against 40 individuals from the leaders of the Coordination of Civilian Democratic Forces, TACDEM, on charges of provoking war against the state, incitement, aiding and agreeing, undermining the constitutional order, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, and genocide. The General Prosecutor issued arrest warrants for Abdullah Hamdok and 40 leaders of TACDEM, and the prosecution demanded that the accused surrender themselves to the nearest police station. The report identified the defendants required to be arrested as Abdullah Adam Hamdok, Yasser Saeed Arman. A drone targeted a Ramadan iftar, on Tuesday, in the Infinity Hall in the city of Atbara in the River Nile State, resulting in deaths and injuries. The River Nile State Security Committee issued a brief statement regarding the incident. It said, a group of worshippers were treacherously attacked by a drone while they were performing the Maghrib prayer after eating the Ramadan iftar meal in the city of Atbara. The attack left a number of martyrs and wounded, and they were treated to receive treatment.
The meeting of the Supreme Committee for Emergency and Crisis Management in Khartoum State, on Wednesday, headed by the Governor of Khartoum, Ahmed Osman Hamza, directed to develop a roadmap for the safe return of the old Omdurman neighborhoods that were recently liberated. The map includes conducting a comprehensive health and environmental survey of residential neighborhoods, consistent with vector and waste control, removing barricades, pest control, and completing the transportation of corpses and foreign objects. Khartoum State Water Authority presented a report to the meeting on the progress of work in rehabilitating the stations to provide supplies to the areas affected by the water outage, while Power Department is currently assessing the damage to the transformers and wires and starting maintenance. In this regard, the meeting decided to hold an expanded meeting with citizen representatives to agree on a common vision. Armed Forces SAF Battalion's operations began on Thursday to liberate Jazeera State in 5 axes. SAF was able to liberate al-Qura locality, east of Jazeera State. SAF Commander, Lieutenant Gen. Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, gave orders to the forces to begin the operation to liberate Jazeera. This operation is considered one of the largest ground operations witnessed in the war that has been ongoing since April 15, if military operations are active in all axes within the plan to eliminate the Rapid Support RSF militia with the participation of aircraft, marches, and tanks. In the areas to which the Armed Forces SAF advanced, they were able to destroy a number of combat vehicles and carry out special operations. Informed sources estimated the force currently charged with liberating Jazeera at about 40,000 fighters. 2 aid convoys carrying life-saving food have reached Sudan's Darfurs for the first time in months, the UN World Food Programme, WFP, said on Friday, as humanitarians try to avert a hunger catastrophe after nearly a year of heavy fighting. The UNWFP has managed to bring desperately needed food and nutrition supplies into Darfur, the first WFP assistance to reach the war-wrecked region in months, said Lenny Kinsley, WFP communications officer in Sudan. The convoys crossed into Sudan from Chad in late March, carrying enough food and nutrition supplies for 250,000 people facing acute hunger in North, West, and Central Darfur.
Now there is a lack of clarity whether we will be able to continue and regularly use the cross-border from Adre into West Darfur, which is so critical because West Darfur is among the most food insecure areas in Sudan, especially Janina, and historically has been over the last 4 to 5 years is where we see the highest levels of hunger in the lean season.
April 15 will mark the one-year anniversary of the eruption of the war waged by Dagalo militia against the Sudanese people and army. The war has claimed thousands of lives, displaced millions, and triggered the world's largest hunger crisis, according to the UN. Perhaps the only powers that have a limited ability to shape events in Sudan are the United States and its Western allies. To try to prevent the bleak outlook of state disintegration in Sudan, the US government is working with the Arab states, namely Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, but some of US allies are on opposing sides in Sudan. However, Western diplomats said they understand that a return to the pre-April 15th status quo is becoming increasingly unlikely as the fighting continues. The absence of US influence comes just 4 years after a high point for Washington hopes in Sudan. In its endeavors to play a role in halting war in Sudan, the Biden administration appointed Special Envoy to Sudan. The US Senators Mark Warner and Tim Kaine applauded the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken's appointment of Tom Perello of Virginia as US Special Envoy for Sudan. Warner and Kaine have consistently pressed the administration to appoint a Special Envoy for Sudan to coordinate and lead diplomatic efforts to negotiate an end to the horrific violence and facilitate the delivery of humanitarian assistance. Perello said that the April talks would again be hosted by the US and Saudi Arabia, with expected participation from the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, and the African Union. Tom Perello's US Special Envoy for Sudan told reporters that these talks need to be inclusive, involving the African Union, the East African Bloc IGAD, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates. We need the partners in the room who are necessary to get this war to end, he said. Unfortunately, the United Arab Emirates has been a key ally for Hemeti during the former war in Libya and Yemen. The United Arab Emirates also benefits from financial ties to Hemeti's businesses. Global Witness reports that the United Arab Emirates has also been a key supplier of military equipment to the RSF. Russian Wagner Group mercenaries trained the militia troops and had official stations inside some of their bases. Perello was appointed as U.S. Special Representative for the State Department's second Quadrennial Diplomacy and Development Review by President Barack Obama. He also served as a special envoy to the African Great Lakes and the Democratic Republic of Congo. He previously worked for the United Nations Special Court for Sierra Leone and the International Center for Transitional Justice in Kosovo, Darfur, and Afghanistan. A political appointee arriving in the job in potentially the last year of the Biden administration he served is dealing from a weak deck already, said Cameron Hudson, a senior associate at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. The possibility that his interlocutors could simply choose to wait him out in quiet trail. Perello said that he believes that a number of factors have changed on the ground that make this movement more promising for resolution, even after past rounds of talks have failed to broker a lasting end to the fighting, but noted that the odds are still not overly promising. That is not to say that I think we have better than 15% chance of success, but I think we have a real path with the chance, and we are going to pursue that with everything we have got, he said. The Sudanese hope to see America stepping in to extinguish the fire of war by forcing the notorious militia to stop its war crimes and bring justice to the widows and orphans. Playing games and giving peace to the militia to gain what it lost will be a big mistake, threatening the peace in the Horn of Africa as a whole.
Peanuts, groundnuts, full Sudani, or Arachis, hypoja. Those are the name for the peanuts. Sudan is considered one of the major export markets of the peanuts in the world. It used to be one of the world's top exporter of peanuts. Moreover, Sudan have two varieties of peanuts. One is grown in the western state of the country, Darfur, and also Kordofan. It's 80% of the total production, whilst the other variety grows in Jazeera state and East Sudan. Peanut, which grown in Sudan, is known to be of better quality, possessing higher levels of protein and oil. In the 16th century, Sudan introduced groundnuts. The crop quickly became popular, and Sudan is now one of the world's major producers of peanuts. Peanuts are a valuable cash crop for many Sudanese farmers. Peanuts are stored for long periods, making them food source during drought. There are many facts about the impacts of peanuts on livelihood in Sudan, such as, first, peanuts are the second most important crop in Sudan after sorghum. Second, the Jazeera scheme, established in 1920s, became a key area for peanut cultivation. This large-scale irrigation project contributed to the expansion of peanuts production. Third, peanuts are grown by over 2 million Sudanese farmers and provide source of income for over 10 million Sudanese people. Fourth, peanuts account for about 10% of Sudan's agricultural GDP and 5% of its total exports. Sudan is a nation that produces a peanut yield, a significant portion ranging from 80% to 90% of its export. This amount to roughly 450,000 tons. Derived from peanut shells, peanut fiber can enhance the absorbency of biodegradable diapers. With its innate moisture retention and wicking abilities, it becomes an ideal candidate for bolstering the absorbent core of such diapers responsible for liquid retention. Moisture retention and wicking abilities, it becomes an ideal candidate for bolstering the absorbent core of such diapers responsible for liquid retention. Integrating peanut fiber into the diapers design not only boosts overall absorbency and retention capacity, but also extends the lifespan of biodegradable diapers. This advancement potentially reduce the need for frequent changes, offering an eco-friendly and comfortable solution for users. Moreover, peanut uses in food and sweet manufacture, like peanuts butter, chocolates bars, cakes, and different types of sweets.
To be caught with a camera, I think it's an extreme thing. Madani was the first city to host IDPs from Khartoum, And the numbers were so huge that some ended up living in abandoned poultry farm, like in this picture. And that's where I met Khadija. The war did shock us all. We thought it is just like any of the previous clashes that were happening over the years. Just a couple of days and things will go back to normal. But we were wrong, and the war kept on escalating. Anyone from Sudan will know a center called Al Maigoma, which is a center for abandoned children and infants. Unfortunately, the war expanded and most of these children had to be relocated. Many ended up living with different families in other states. I usually try to communicate first, try to find the story behind every person I meet, and some stories are just hard to document. The amount of fear that they had to go through and the complexity of life that they're going through right now. The twins, when the conflict started, along with their mother and their younger brother, they fled Darfur. They ended up living in a hostel. It was just amazing to see girls at this age, 12 years old, with very strong will after going through all of this. I took this image in a time where there was huge influx of refugees and returnees crossing from Sudan into South Sudan. You can't believe the number of people who are just trying to flee to safety. A year later, the war in Sudan is still going very strong, and lives of millions of Sudanese have completely stalled and stopped. So I think we need the world to come forward and start talking more about Sudan.
This mobile footage shows civilians rounded up by the paramilitary rapid support forces in Me'elig in central Sudan's Jazeera state. The RSF raided the town earlier this week, and local groups say they killed several. A body can be seen a few meters away from the group. Are you dead or not yet? The man filming asks. The body doesn't move. More footage shows other people being rounded up. The man filming here accuses them of fighting on the side of the army in a town known to have no military facility. The RSF has been fighting Sudan's army since April and launched an attack on Jazeera state in December, taking it over after the army withdrew. Facilities such as hospitals, universities, and banks were destroyed. At least 500,000 people were displaced due to the RSF attack on the state that once hosted the largest number of internally displaced people from the current conflict. Local groups known as resistance committees say the RSF has committed atrocities that include sexual violence, forcible disappearance of civilians, and arbitrary killings. They say many bodies have been left in the streets for days, and a lot of civilian homes turned into military camps. Many people who have tried to leave since the takeover have been forced to stay in the state. Those who were able to flee say they did so out of fear of falling victims to the RSF.
We left our homes and had to move through allies and lesser-known routes. When we left Madani, we saw the evidence of the atrocities that were committed by the RSF, the dead bodies on the streets. We feared for ourselves. We fled only with the clothes that we were wearing.
In response to the accusations, the RSF told Al Jazeera that those who targeted civilians were not part of their forces and described them as outlaws. But with the history of the group targeting civilians going back even before the start of the current war, survivors of the crimes in Me'elig and Jazeera say they don't doubt who's responsible. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Khartoum.
Island in Sudan represented as one of the most attractive places. Tuti Island is an island that located at the Blue and White Nile in Sudan, in the middle of the city of Khartoum, and in the middle of the three cities that compound the capital Khartoum, Durman and Khartoum Bahri. The area of Tuti Island is 950 acres. It has lemon, mango, and many types of vegetables. Mugrat Island is an island located in the river Nile state located near the city of Abu Hamad. It is distinguished by its wonderful beauty and natural scenery. Badin Island is located in Sudan, specifically in the north of the city of Dongola, and is the second largest island along the river Nile in Sudan. The Kassinger Islands are located in the North Sudan, home about 7,000 citizens who live in the middle of the Nile River in a naturally picturesque area that distinguished by fishing and tourism, besides growing different types of crops such as palm trees, onion, peanuts, potatoes, and wheat. In fact, the island has many advantages such as economic, environment, and tourism.
فيهم